Good. I promise this is the last time I say good morning. Good morning to all of you, finally. My name is Nomsa Masuku. I'm a member of the Commission. I'm your program director this morning. I've got a very simple task: to keep time, make sure that everything goes smoothly, try and explain to you what it is that is happening, and make sure we start on time and make sure that we finish on time. I think I've passed on the first score. Let's see how we get to the end goal. On my left-hand side, our sign language interpreter is Miss Nicoline Dertoit. You would think that after knowing her for 20 years, I would know how to pronounce her surname. I still struggle a little bit with that. Please forgive me. Allow me to introduce the people standing behind me, and let me do so without looking at them. In the middle, at the back, may I introduce you to the Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Mr. Glenn Mashinini. On his right and my right, may I please introduce the Vice Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Ms. Janet Love. On the extreme right, may I please introduce Commissioner Miepia. Let us come back to the Chairperson on his left. Allow me to introduce the Chief Electoral Officer of the Electoral Commission, Mr. Sai Mamabolo. It's a beautiful day in South Africa. It's more beautiful because we got here safely. Let us start. At least if we start, we're sure to finish. Allow me at this point in time to invite the Vice Chairperson of the Electoral Commission to welcome you formally so that we can begin. Commissioner Love, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Masuku, my fellow Commissioner. Honourable Ministers and Deputy Ministers present, Honourable Members of Parliament and those from the legislatures, Honourable Leaders of political parties and representatives of political parties, Chairpersons and CEOs of fellow Chapter 9 institutions, High Commissioners, Ambassadors and members of the Diplomatic Corps, the Chairperson and members of the Demarcation Board, representatives of our security agencies, my fellow commissioners of the Electoral Commission and in particular our Chairperson, former commissioners and leaders from the Electoral Commission, the CEO of the Commission and the members of staff of the Electoral Commission, representatives of SALGA, the South African Local Government Association, representatives of our faith-based organizations, those from the disability sector, from the business sector, and generally from organizations in civil society. A special mention to members from the media, and through you, to all South Africans watching this live broadcast, honourable guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of all of us at the IEC, our greetings to you all. We are heartened by your presence here with us today. Our world is a very fast-changing place with new challenges and also new opportunities that reveal themselves every day. And it is into this that we need to be strong enough and have enough energy to embrace it all so that we move smoothly towards a very successful 2019 election. I trust and I hope that this year started on a robust note for all of you, and that we look forward to engaging with you in the building and the development of our country's future, in the defending and advancing of our democracy, and to ensure that we create the conditions necessary for free and fair elections this year. Securing our democracy and the integrity of our elections is a joint responsibility, and we trust that your participation in this launch event sees us coming together to ensure our collective success in the coming elections. So welcome on behalf of the Electoral Commission to you all. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Love, thank you very much. I am now going to ask that we rise and we are going to listen to, or you can sing along to the national anthem with the necessary decorum, please. If you can please rise. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please remain standing, could you please observe a moment of silence, during which time can you please do what it is that we need to do and make sure that spiritually we are where we should be. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please take your seats. May I please invite the CEO of the Electoral Commission, Mr. Sai Mamabulo, to talk to you about the preparations for the elections. Mr. Sai Mamabulo, thank you.
Thank you very much, Program Director, and let me align myself with the protocol that was observed by Commissioner Love. It is a great privilege to welcome you on behalf of the Electoral Commission to today's official launch of South Africa's 6th democratic national and provincial elections. Perhaps it is apposite that I start with a proposition. An election is more than a technical act of marking a ballot. It is, in fact, a national enterprise of refreshing, through the election of public representatives, the edifice of governance in the Republic. In a sense, elections are about giving effect to a constitutional value system. When citizens vote, they are in fact engaging in an act of constitutionalism. They are reaffirming our status as a vibrant constitutional democracy. Therefore, an election is a more richer experience than just the mechanical act of marking a ballot. So today, we give impetus to this noble proposition that we are indeed a vibrant constitutional democracy. Distinguished guests, over the past 18 months, the Electoral Commission has been hard at work laying the groundwork for this year's election. Our first major task has been to update the voters' roll in line with the ruling of the Constitutional Court that the voters' roll must contain addresses for every voter thereon. In this regard, we are pleased to report very significant progress over the period. In March 2016, out of the 26 million voters on the roll, there were approximately 8.4 million people for whom we had addresses. As we speak today, that figure stands at 21.5 million, representing 83% of the totality of the voters' roll. It is palpable that we are not at a point we wish to be in respect of addresses on the voters' roll. For we aspire a voters' roll in which every voter's details are accurate and up to date. It was for this reason that we approached the Constitutional Court for more time to continue with our ongoing initiatives to obtain addresses for every voter on the roll. That request has now been granted until November this year. Critically, this will allow us to collect addresses for voters during the upcoming registration weekend, as well as on election day itself, as well as subsequent to that until the end of November this year. So we are grateful to the Constitutional Court for the clarity and certainty it has provided in respect of the franchise right of voters for whom we do not have an address. Dear distinguished guests, this brings me to a further key area of work over the past 18 months, which has been legislative amendments aimed at enhancing the electoral process, including issues related to the compilation of the voters' roll. Among these important legislative amendments, which have been approved by the National Assembly and are today being considered by the National Council of Provinces, we are introducing clarity regarding the voting procedure to be followed where a voter does not have an address on the roll. And we are also providing for a structured process for anyone, including political parties, to raise objections against people on the roll. These proposed amendments also allow for a registration of a voter in any voting district within the ward in which they ordinarily reside. There are also amendments that allow for the further use of technology to facilitate access and interaction with the Electoral Commission, including the electronic submission of lists of candidates. Ladies and gentlemen, over the past 18 months, we have also completed the redelimitation of voting districts to ensure that we further improve the accessibility to registration and voting opportunities for all South Africans, especially those who live in transient communities such as informal settlements. This has seen the number of voting districts grow to 22,927 for this election, so just shy of 23,000 voting stations. This is an increase of approximately 300 since 2016 municipal elections and about 650 since the 2014 national and provincial elections. We are also pleased that while increasing the total number of voting districts, we concomitantly decreased the number of temporary voting stations. Our planning currently makes provision for 1,059 temporary voting stations compared to 1,495 in 2014. So this is a decrease of a whopping 30% over the 5-year period. And we have a further 28 mobile voting stations in areas which are not suited for a static voting facility. As we speak today, deliveries of registration items on our bill of materials are being delivered to provincial warehouses around the country. Almost 7 million REC1 registration forms in all official languages, 74,000 posters, 70,000 voting station arrow signs, and over 46,000 stationery packs are on their way to registration facilities. And our 32,000 trusty zip devices have been serviced and maintained and are ready to scan ID documents and smart card IDs at each voting station to keep a record of visits made by voters. In a key enhancement introduced for this registration process, we have partnered with the Statistics South Africa to make use of their digital scanning facility to scan all completed registration forms. This will allow us to publish the most up-to-date voters' roll featuring all addresses and voter details ahead of the elections. We are grateful to Stats SA and the Statistician General for this vital support. Distinguished guests, the past year has also seen a burgeoning of registrations of new political parties. Since January 2018, the Electoral Commission has received 47 applications for registration, bringing the current number of nationally registered parties in South Africa to 285. Not only that, and the Electoral Commission is still in the process of processing a further 37 applications. Of course, this hopefully does not mean we will see a 200+ party ballot paper. If that were to happen, I'll run away. A registration of a political party and contestation of an election are not synonymous. The contestation of an election requires the payment of a deposit. The practice of prescribing election deposits has been part of our electoral democratic reality since 1994. And in setting this amount, the Commission has always sought to strike a judicious balance between an amount so high that it unfairly impairs the ability of potential electoral contestants and an amount so low that it fails to dissuade frivolous parties. Accordingly, the Commission has resolved to keep the amounts the same as those in 2014, namely 200,000 for the national elections and 45,000 for each of the provinces. This means that in real terms, the amounts have decreased substantially over the past 14 years. As you know, these deposits are returned to a party which obtains a seat in the relevant legislature. Those that do not obtain sufficient votes to win a seat forfeit the deposit to the national fiscus, in other words, the National Revenue Fund. Ladies and gentlemen, a further key area of preparation relates to technology updates and enhancements to our internal business applications. As part of our address harvesting initiatives, we have introduced an online address verification and update facility for voters. It's a very easy to use tool on our website. It's called Click, Check, and Confirm. So if you are registered, you are able to generate a user account with your own password, and you can access your details and change your address if it is incorrect, or if you've changed registration stations, you could also use that to update your address. So we urge all registered voters to please make use of this facility as part of the voter registration drive going forward. In addition, we are busy finalizing enhancements to our various electoral systems, including the online candidate nomination system, the result system, as well as our mobile applications. Our final and perhaps most vital area of preparation has been to recruit and train officials to firstly conduct voter registration and later voting and counting. We have recruited and trained close to 60,000 registration officials and deputy registration officials for deployment in the registration stations over the weekend of the 26th and 27th of January. This group will also form the core of the team of volunteers who will run the voting station on election day, along with a further 200,000 additional support staff who will be recruited and trained between now and election day. We are pleased to know that our recruitment continues to favor young persons, the unemployed, and women. But the Electoral Commission also continues to strive to strike a balance between a desire to provide a learning and growth opportunity for young, unemployed people and the need for experienced, knowledgeable, and mature persons to oversee the vital voting and counting operation at each voting station, because they also need to help manage and deal with objections and critical logistics issues that may arise on election day. So a bit of experience is quite important to maintain a modicum of efficiency within the voting station. But much work remains to be done between now and election day. I am pleased to report that the Electoral Commission is prepped up, ready to embark on the next phase of preparation, which is the national drive to encourage voter registration. This includes urging all voters who have yet registered to do so, especially young South Africans, to be able to participate in our electoral processes for the first time. It also means encouraging all registered voters to check and update their registration details either at the voting stations on the 26th and 27th of January, or preferably on our online application, Click, Check, and Confirm facility that I spoke about earlier. In line with the constitutional provisions, We will also be conducting voter registration for prisoners at correctional services centers and for South Africans living outside of the Republic at all South Africa's 121 missions between the 1st and the 4th of February. We are also planning a targeted youth registration drive on campuses in January, as well as those voting districts that have a low registration threshold. The weekend of the 26th and 27th January is the second and final opportunity for voters to register and check their registrations within the context of voting stations. Shortly thereafter, we anticipate the proclamation of elections which will seal the voters' roll. So on behalf of the Commission, we call on those who love democracy in our country to partner with us in pursuing a record number of registrations for these elections. Use every means at your disposal to support electoral democracy. Tell your friends, family about the importance of registering and voting. Tweet about it, post about it, and talk about it. And most importantly, do it yourself, for as we propose, voting is a constitutional endeavor which defines the manner we appropriate the authority to govern our public affairs. To our partners, the South African Police Services, the SABC, ENCA, our business providers, and so on, we need to hold hands together as we prepare, hopefully, for an election that we can all be proud of. Ke a leboga.
Thank you very much, CEO. I'll allow you to sit. Ladies and gentlemen, without wasting much time, allow me to call upon the Chairperson of the Electoral Commission to say a few words to you. Chairperson, it's your turn.
Thank you, Program Director, Dr. Masuku. And as already my colleague has, on our behalf, observed the protocol, I will just join in that. And fellow South Africans watching this live broadcast, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Electoral Commission, let me begin by wishing you the compliments of the new year. This year is certainly going to be a milestone year for our beloved country and its young democracy, and I underline young democracy. It is a year in which we celebrate 25th anniversary of our first democratic elections of 1994, which has become immortalized as our National Freedom Day. As we say in our national anthem, we strive for nothing else but freedom. And we know that those elections signal the start of our continuing journey for democracy, which was to realize our values, our freedom and democracy as it is provided in our Constitution. Now, distinguished guests, just looking back at this young democracy of 25 years, what do we see? There are a number of things that all of us can mention, but from where we as a commission, we see a country which, while grappling with social, economic, and political challenges, but this country has remained firmly rooted in its constitutional democracy. We see a country which has successfully held 5 national elections 5 provincial elections and 5 municipal elections. And all of those elections were done free and fair. Included in that has been continuous number of elections that have taken place during our by-elections. What else do we see? We see a country whose electoral democracy remains among the highest quality in the world, and whose elections have been conducted in line with our constitution and our electoral laws. We see a country that is proud to have upheld the highest standards of best practices by any international standards, in full conformity with the norms and standards set by the United Nations and its agencies, set by the African Union, set by the Southern African Development Community, as well as standards that have been set by world electoral management bodies. We see a country whose voters continue to register and to participate in high numbers, and this not also being a country where it is compulsory to register and vote. We see a country whose multi-party democracy continues to grow steadily, as reflected by the continuous growth in the number of registered political parties and candidates contesting elections at every given time. We see a country whose constitutional and public institutions, such as our judiciary, our Reserve Bank, our Chapter 9 institutions, just to name a few, that remain independent, that remain impartial, and are very effective in their dispensing of their constitutional duties. While this does not mean we have not faced challenges, and we do not continue to face challenges as a country, the story that we're talking about of the past 25 years of our young democracy is very clear to everyone to see and to everyone to appreciate, that South Africa remains on track. South Africa remains firmly committed in what it set out to do in 1994, that is the democratic project and the democratic journey. Distinguished guests, this year we are here today. We will see that the people of our country once more again will go to the polls for the 6th time to elect representatives for national and provincial legislature. And once again, this would be the people of South Africa reaffirming their commitment to nothing else but the democratic journey. And you've heard from our CEO earlier on, who actually indicated how advanced the preparations for elections have now developed. And on behalf of the Commission, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge and to thank some of our key stakeholders who have played and continue to play a vital role in assisting in these preparations to date, and including in helping to expedite the necessary legislative bills that are still being processed, including the NCOP as they are sitting today. And we'd like to thank the ministers and the departments that are very vital and key in supporting us, in particular the Minister and the Department of Home Affairs, and the Minister and the Department of COCTA. And these are the key critical departments that work very closely with the Commission in ensuring that we achieve our constitutional responsibility. But we also thank, in particular, the various portfolio committees and members of the legislature that remain responsible for our activities. In particular, the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs, both the former and the current chairpersons, Honorable Mashile and Honorable Chauke, as well as the Select Committee on Social Services and its chairperson, the Honorable Dlamini. Without the support and assistance of ensuring that our legislatures create the necessary legislative environment, we will not be successful without those particular elected representatives. The Electoral Commission is also grateful for the ongoing support and the assistance that we receive from the Office of the President of the Republic of South Africa. And as we speak, we still are awaiting finalization of other legislations that the bills have now been passed. Distinguished guests, the support and the assistance of all these and other stakeholders, in particular our political parties as the key stakeholders in this work, is very much vital in helping us to prepare these upcoming elections. As outlined by the CEO, we realize that the logistical and legislative preparations are only one aspect to ensure a successful election. There remains a number of other critical success factors that the Commission is seized with. The first of these is ensuring that there's a prevalence of conditions conducive to free, fair, and credible elections. This includes a climate for political campaigning that is free from fear and that has no intimidation and is free from violence, and an environment that is also endowed with political tolerance, mutual respect, and also respect of the rights of others. The maturing of our democracy, interestingly, over the past quarter of a century, has seen the rise of more robust style of political campaigning. But we must remain vigilant to ensure efforts to win votes do not transgress the Constitution and the electoral legislations. Therefore, the Commission appeals to each and every party, candidate, and representatives, as well as the voters, that they should do everything in their power to constantly foster and maintain an environment which supports free, fair, and credible elections. This reminds me of Indira Gandhi, who once said, "Winning or losing election is less important than strengthening the country." And compatriots, I can say, let us then bear these wise words in mind as we enter the electoral contestation. A second and critical success factor is the integrity of the voters' roll. We bear testimony that the bedrock of stability and credible elections lies in the integrity of the voters' roll. That's the first foot forward. If the voters' roll is flawed, then the subsequent activities is already flawed. And you've also heard that the Commission is in advance preparation and has taken all the measures in ensuring that with its activities and the stakeholders to ensure that we pursue a credible voters' roll. And one of the things that perhaps might not have been noticed is that the success that was achieved, that we have moved from 34% of the voters being compliant with the Constitution to where we are today. Since 2016, we are sitting at 83% that the voters have actually come forward and completed their addresses. I think that is a major achievement that has been accomplished since the local government. But we as the Commission say that one person without an address is still one person too many, and we will leave no stone unturned in our quest to achieve the highest possible registration levels and quality of the voters' roll. And therefore, we again, in this regard, we appeal for the continued support and assistance from all our partners, that political parties, members of the Fourth Estate, the government, the civil society, and others, to encourage the voters to come forward and take advantage of this opportunity, which is our final registration at the end of this month. So we are appealing also to fellow South Africans that seize the opportunity to make sure that you are correctly registered and all your details are in full compliance come the registration weekend. A third critical success factor is the integrity of the entire value chain or electoral process from the time of compilation of the voters' roll and registration to the actual voting, counting, transmission of the electoral results, and finalization of the results. We've seen challenges in the continent where between the voting and counting and the transmission, results became problematic. And we saw, for example, a case in Kenya where the results were nullified by the courts. Now, South Africa, fortunately, has one of the most transparent and inclusive electoral processes in the world, and underline, in the world. And political parties, through the role of party agents, play a vital role in providing the credibility of the process. The voting and the counting process is done in partnership with the political parties, whereby the party agents and our electoral staff play a critical role in ensuring that those results are compiled, and those results are verified, and those results are then registered and recorded, and that is when they can now be posted and be sent to the national office for consolidation. In fact, we actually say the election results are actually known to party agents and political parties, as well as observers and other personnel, before they actually reach the national office. And therefore, the integrity of those results are because of that particular partnership, and which is why we have to remain vigilant in ensuring that that capability and check and balance is never compromised. A fourth critical success factor is the quality and professionalism, as well as the integrity of the electoral staff itself, which we ensure first by that all those people working in the voting station, they do sign an electoral code of conduct. And we in South Africa, we rely on the South Africans who actually throughout the country volunteer to make themselves available for those 5 to 7 days, where they then assist the Commission in ensuring that we conduct the elections according to the standards that have been set. And we as a Commission, we then have the responsibility to ensure that those people are properly trained. We urge, therefore, that the political parties should identify as early as possible the people that will be the party agents, so that as we now roll out the 200,000 training for the voting day, we have also the party agents training more or less at the same time, so that they also come from the same script as our electoral staff. This helps to improve the voting checks and balances, and we as a Commission, we need the party agents as much as we need the electoral staff. And the other side, we also need that they are observers. In this regard, both national and international, and that helps the overall integrity of the system. And the fifth and critical success factor in participation in this electoral process is participation in the election, and which is why we are here today. The greater the number of people who participate in election, the greater the legitimacy of the election. And so, ladies and gentlemen, today we are launching a campaign to promote voter registration and participation among eligible voters. And in this particular regard, as a country, we enjoy a high level of voter registration, which is sitting on average around 75% of all eligible voters. However, when we break down the demographics of that, that indicates that people who are at the age below the age of 30 remain underrepresented. In this case, people who are age of 18 to 19 are currently sitting at 16%, and people who are at the age of 20 to 29 are sitting at about 54%. As such, the Commission then has actually decided to form and launch this particular campaign today, which should then focus primarily in saying that the young people must be the target. And therefore, the campaign has been designed by the young people, with the young people, for the young people. We therefore hope that this particular campaign will be in a position to actually attract and bring forward as many South Africans, especially the young people, forward to register. And we like then to thank all the parties that have assisted us to this point, and we therefore appeal to all of us as the key stakeholders that we must mobilize South Africans to come forward and register. We say, exe, register, exe, we all must vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. May I ask the commissioners to please vacate their seats from this side and to go and sit in those seats that are being put up right now. Ladies and gentlemen, you just give me a few seconds to arrange that, and it will be done. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, have I got a surprise for you? So, you might want to cut off your phones. You might want to sit. You might want to take a deep breath. You might like to, what might you like to do? Nah. Okay. I have a huge surprise for you. I hope you enjoy it as much as I have. I must tell you, I cheated. I saw it first before you did. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we go.
Excès!
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 Hey, excès!
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 Excès says it's my time, not just to be seen, but to be heard and listened to. Excès says democracy is better than hypocrisy. It says I'm not just a dissident, but a participant.
Excès says I'm young enough to be bold enough, old enough to be wise enough.
Excès says we're making moves to express ourselves. Excès says I'm not just a number in the crowd, but I'm a part of a future of which I'll forever be proud.
Excès. Excès says that my ex is my ace. Excès says that your ex is your say. Excès.
Excès, excès, excès,
Excès.
excès, 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 excès.
Excès says listen. Excès says listen. Excès is about being heard. Excès is about your say. Excès is expression. It's about expressing yourself. Excès is a call for action. Excès is an exclamation. Excès says hear me. Excès is attention. Excès is a multiculturally understood South African term that can be used in many situations, especially when you want to be heard. Excès,
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 excès. This one?
Is it this way?
That's the change.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. Woo, woo! Ladies and gentlemen, this is South Africa's logo for the 2019 elections. Conceptualized, created, birthed, delivered by the young people of South Africa. All they ask is not for you to do things for them. Just give them the platform, and they will take you to a world that you never even dreamed of. Because what? They are here, and they want to be heard. One more time, do it for me. Thank you very much to the drum bots, to the wonderful young people who delivered that lovely message to all of us. Right now, I'd like to share with you the registration advert. And then I want to tell you two stories about two of the people that participated in this, in this campaign that we've just shown you over here. And then finally, ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to watch carefully at the end of the two stories, because you're going to get a reminder of what it is that you need in order to register and vote. Please.
Excès means democracy.
It's better than hypocrisy.
That I am no longer a dissident, but a participant.
Excès says that I'm young enough to be bold enough, old enough to be wise enough.
Excès says we're making moves to express ourselves.
Excès says my ex is my ace.
Excès, I'm no longer just a number in the crowd, but part of the future of which I can forever be proud.
Excès, your ex is your say.
IEC needs your address before you vote. Register in the ward you live on 26 and 27 January 2019, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Welcome to Elections 2019, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. We've finally arrived at that moment. May I please now ask Commissioner Miepe to give the vote of thanks. On my part, May I thank you for being a lovely audience, for being a cooperative audience. I am going to ask you to please remain seated after Commissioner Miepa does the vote of thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Masuku. No doubt that no duty is more urgent than that of returning thanks. Silent gratitude isn't much of any much use unless words are spoken. This morning, we are grateful. The Electoral Commission is grateful to all of you. You have come, you have shared in our preparations. You have come to share in our joy of this journey that we have started. Indeed, a journey of 1,000 miles has begun in this instance. Somebody once said, the hardest arithmetic to master is that which enables us to count our blessings. And indeed, today, you are our blessings, each one of you here. I want to say to the viewers throughout this country, to our listeners on radio across this country, thank you for tuning in, and thank you for staying the course with us. Election 2019 is not too far. In fact, the journey that has been taken thus far is much less than the journey that is still yet to be taken. I want to say to all of you that have come this morning, members of the Diplomatic Corps, our South African citizens in your nation will be voting. They will be registering and voting. We thank you that you understand and you will appreciate that facility. You will help us in your countries. I thank you, political parties, for being here with us. This journey is never complete without you. We work extensively with you. Voters, we thank you for registering in your numbers. We look forward to seeing you on the 26th and the 27th of January. We want to say to all of those that still have not given us an address that you have ample opportunity. Don't wait, start today. We can never say, indeed, we are done, and say that the only thing that we have to say is that we are here. They say the only prayer you said, if the only prayer you have said in your whole life is thank you, that would suffice. For us at the Electoral Commission, we begin today. We know that you're going to be partners even as we travel this journey with you. To you in the media, take out this message to every corner of this nation. Take it in a manner that it will be understood and in a manner that it will be impartial and uphold our independence. To those of you who are in business, thank you for availing facilities and ensuring that people that you host, that people that work with you are indeed given the opportunity to go out and register and to vote. To those who are in organized labor movements, we say help them, those that you serve, to indeed realize their democratic franchise. To learners, to teachers, to society at large, we invite you to journey with us, participate, excel, this is for you. Finally, I'd like to say that this is a great nation, but this nation needs all of us. Every one of us that is here, and every one of us that is listening, we will need you. We will need you to encourage someone you know is not registered, that they will register and that they will go and vote. We need you to hold a hand of someone, even as you walk into a registration station. We need you to hold a hand of someone, even as you vote on election day, because election day should be a celebratory day. No one should be sad on that occasion, and no one should be caused to be sad. And so we thank you today, even as we journey to the future. And in closing, let me say this. This is a great nation, and God bless our nation. Nkosi sigelele Afrika. Thank you, and good morning.
There's still time to register to vote. That's the word from the IEC. They just have been telling us, they're telling the South African nation what needs to be done. You just have to present your ID and go to the various stations where you can register to vote, and that information will be made public in due course. We're going to go for a short break and of course have more news for you thereafter.
On the agenda, Blaine and I have such an amazing team of writers and producers and a technical team that's so aware of the needs of our viewers and the constant need to be independent and impartial. I'm Desiree Chauke and I am SABC News.
In my time, I've truly seen it all firsthand. Angizwanga ngizibonele ngalawam amehlo. Going through my photographs and reflecting on my memory box really brings back many life experiences that are bittersweet and humbling. In this, my homeland, I've entertained tourists and offshore traders. I've evolved from dealing with the battering system to trading foreign exchange. I've traveled to the ends of the world and tasted a diversity of culinary palates. To outsiders, I have lived alongside wild animals, tamed some, and collected livestock as wealth. So my memory box is overflowing. And don't get me wrong, I'm not bragging, but in fact, I'm breaking and hurting deep down inside of this heart of mine. Why? What for? I hear you ask yourself, my fellow Africans, friends and family. The images I have of me are those of the point of view of my onlooker, not those of myself, the subject at hand. I'm choking and suffocating at the chalice those anthropologists and filmmakers tie around me as some sort of grand name tag. Stories have been made and told of me, not of my own words. Films and graphic images have entertained millions of audiences at my expense.
Good afternoon, you're watching On Point. The Northwest Department of Education has suspended the teacher who took the picture